welcome back, faithful politics listeners and viewers. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, I am your political host, Will Wright, and I'm joined by your faithful host, Josh Bertram.
Hello, hello. What's going on, Will?
Not much. And this week we have with us Mr. Clay Clark, who is a U.S. Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year, business owner, consultant, author, and speaker. He's the founder of Thrive15.com, an online education material for entrepreneurs, but is probably more well known as the founder, organizer, emcee, and host of the ReAwaken Tour with Michael Flynn. So welcome to the show, Clay.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you guys allowing me to be here with you today. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for coming on.
So maybe talk to us or start us off by just telling us about, kind of your early career. Like who is Clay Clark early in his career? And
I'm not that impressive. I'm just very organized and very aggressive. And so I grew up really poor. And I think a lot of people listening probably grew up as poor or more than I was. I was yellow box poor, generic brand poor. My dad delivered pizzas and worked at a gas station, in his late 30s, poor. That's how poor we were, And I just knew at a very young age I didn't want to be poor anymore. So I started an entertainment company out of my parents' basement called DJconnection.com. And at the time, though, it was called C&G DJ Service. But the iteration of a DJ company was there. We would do I would do sound and lights started off with a middle school dance and then another middle school dance and then a high school dance. And then before I sold it, we were doing 4,000 events per year. And I got rich quick by working at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. I had 3 jobs. And I used all that money to get rich quick by working 100 hours a week every week for about a year and a half, 2 years to save up all that money to get the seed capital. And then when I was about 20-ish, I think it was 20, I was named as Entrepreneur of the Year by my city because of all the success we were having. And I thought, well, okay, that's interesting. And that was my first interaction with political people because I met people both on the left and the right who I disagreed with about every subject. And then I won another award. I was 27 as the Entrepreneur of the Year for the Small Business Administration. And yet again, I met people on the right and the left, of which I disagreed with all of them about every subject every time, because I found that I was more of a libertarian. I just want to be left alone and be let to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And when I sold the entertainment company, about 18 months, 2 years before I sold the company, people kept calling me going, hey, I'm a dentist. Could you help me grow my business? I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. and I'm going, huh? And they go, well, don't you have a party rental company too? And I said, yeah. And they said, don't you have a real estate company too? Yeah. Don't you flip houses? Yeah. Don't you? And I didn't recognize that being somebody who was making revenue from 20 plus revenue streams was abnormal because I naturally don't spend a lot of time with other people. I spend most of my time just focused on my tasks. And so I thought, you know what, I'll form an LLC. So 2005, I started a company called Make Your Life Epic. Not Make Your Life Great, but Make Your Life Epic, which is sort of the journey that you go through overcoming, adversity en route to your ultimate success.
Yeah.
And since that time, I've worked with 160 clients. And for full transparency, if anybody goes to thrivetimeshow.com and you look at the testimonials, we document their successes or their case studies. And how my program works, imagine you went to business school and you paid $1,700 a month to month, and your professor says, I want a small percentage of the growth. So you pay $1,700 a month to go to the school, but I want to keep 1.5%, 2.5% of the gross growth. And so, a lot of my clients, I can just give you an example, PMH, OKC, it's Perfect My Home, not political guy. He builds pergolas, outdoor kitchens. When I started working with him, he did $50,000 a month of sales, and now he does $1.4 million a month of sales. And so I get a small percentage of that growth. And so I found a lot of the entrepreneurs were like, I love what you're teaching me, man, but I don't have a videographer, photographer, bookkeeper, workflow mapper, sales team. And I said, I will supply all that for you as part of that $1,700. But I just want a small percentage of the growth. And so that's what I do. And my average client is with me for about 6 to 7 years, usually until they exit or they sell the company. And I've been doing that since 2005. So that would be a year 18 now that I've been doing that.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So
it's amazing.
What was life like growing up in the Clark house? I mean, were you political, religious?
Well, we went to Assembly of God. That was the church we went to. I think we were taught that God created the earth, and that God gives you rights, and governments are instituted amongst men to uphold those rights. I don't know that it was taught verbally. I don't know that it was taught, but I know that was sort of like the maybe theological boundaries, which was normal for me at that time growing up. But I have always had somewhere between a dislike and a disdain for the political class who typically have a very symmetrical head, or a very this is just what it is. If you have a very symmetrical head and you have and you spend a lot of time working out, which is fine, and you are polite and sort of go with the flow, you're chameleon-like, you're willing to say what people want you to say. Those are typically the people that become politicians, at least the ones that I've met throughout my life. And so a lot of them have zero principles. So as an example, the Republicans back in the day, they took me out to celebrate my success. And they took me to this delegation. Took me to they said, Clay, we want to celebrate your success. We're taking you to D.C. to get your award. Woo! To quote Ric Flair. And so I'm there with my wife. I'm like 24, 25. And I'm going, can I ask, who's paying for this meal? Because it's very expensive. And they go, oh, it's the taxpayers. Don't worry about it. I go, no. I don't want the taxpayers to pay for it. I'm just going to pay for my own meal. And they're like, what? I mean, I don't want. No, it's already paid for. I'm like, no. And this is the Republicans now. I wasn't at the Democrat gathering, okay? But then we had a mayor at the time who was Democrat, and I noticed that she had the same exact view of money and resources as the Republican people. There was no differentiation at all, and so I would call that the uniparty. And on just a shallow level, they each said different things, but they did the same thing. So they each had like a different thing they said, but they did the same thing. So it was very interesting. And so that's kind of where I had my political awakening, was when I was receiving business awards.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, I'm sure that as you went through life, you had to face a lot of adversity. You talked about how you were poor when you were young, and how that really shaped the way that you were moving forward. You know, we've what kind of adversity have you faced, even like with health, things in the family, and what have you done to kind of push through that to get to the other side? I wake
up every day at 3 a.m. and I go to bed at 9. I wake up every day at 3 and I work until 6. So my super success tip, my get rich quick tip is this. I get up at 3 and I work till 6, and I do it every day, 6 days a week. Now, I derive that work ethic or that mindset from the book of Genesis and Exodus, which I believe where God instructs you to work 6 days and rest on the seventh. That's my mindset. I reject the 40-hour work week concept, which was introduced by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1938 through the Fair Labor Standards Act. I reject that idea. So I work 6 days a week. So one of my, growth, and again, I'm not endorsing their life outside of their career. I'm just telling you about their work ethic. Most of the books I read that motivated me as a young guy would be like Life and Death by Russell Simmons. Read a lot of that. Read a lot of early books about how P. Diddy did it. A lot of books, because I was a DJ. So a lot of the rappers, the early DJs, that was sort of where I got the ones that really would put in the work, the grind. Africa Bambaataa, the way they promoted their parties, the way that the DJs went from DJs to MCs and from MCs to rappers, and that whole process of promoting albums. And so that's kind of where I was, So the initial adversity was, you have this DJ equipment, and I was trying to pay for college. And college was about $15,000 a year. And I charged people $5 a head to go to my dance parties. All right. And I went to Oral Roberts University. So here's how I did it. I made flyers, and I would tell people I have a dance party in 2 weeks. So the 2 Mondays before the event, I'd say, in 2 weeks, on Friday, we're having a dance party. It's going to be at the Marriott where it's going to be very hot. And it would get stuck in their head because it's the Marriott where it's very hot. It's just stuck in your head. It rhymes. So it's nice. Marriott where it's very hot. And they would go, what is it? It's a dance party. It's the Marriott where it's very hot. And so I would promote it, and I would pass out flyers, and people were like, dude, you've already told me this. I'm like, have I told you about the dance party at the Marriott where it's very hot? And I would do every day. And then I promoted, I paid very popular people, because I learned about this from the hip-hop game, that nobody wants to listen to the rap song unless they know the name of the rapper. So a lot of times rappers, they'll feature a new artist on their song. So it'll be like Dr. Dre featuring Eminem, which makes Eminem relevant because Dre introduces him. That's sort of the deal. So I would have the popular kids in school. I mean, the Division I athletes, the guy who everybody knows. And I would say, hey, you need to tell everybody you're coming to the party, and I'll give you 10% of the proceeds if we get to 500 people. And they're like, that's cool. So this is pre-Facebook, but these dudes would tell everybody, hey, I'm going to the Marriott where it's very hot. Come see me and Clay. Let's go. So that's how we did it. And then I would put bubble soap or like dish soap in the massive fountains. This is very sacrilegious, but it was in the prayer fountains. And they had these massive fountains at Oral Roberts University. And I would put soap in the fountains on during the chapel that preceded the dance party. So people would go, oh, snap, he's got a party this Friday. Because it was like, again, TOMA, top of mind awareness. So what can you learn from that? One, you have to have a pithy pitch that makes you want to scratch that mental itch, the pithy pitch. So if you get stuck in your head, then it's hard to forget it, right? So the pithy pitch. So the Marriott where it was very hot, and then you have to have top of mind awareness, and you usually have to tell people 5 to 10 times the same thing before it gets stuck in their head. So you start to, but then the adversity was the people on the campus are like, stop telling me about your party. Stop it. No one cares. Stop it. No one. But then over time it flipped where everybody was going. People were like, dude, are you going? When's your next party? That was crazy. So that was that. And then, getting the money for the equipment, working at Applebee's and Target and DirecTV, making $7 an hour, working 100 hours a week, sleeping 4 or 5 hours a day for years. And that was a challenge. And then when I decided to drop out of school, because I sat down with a professor and I said, how much do you make per year, sir? It was a private conversation. And he said, X amount. And I said, so if I stay in this particular degree program and I graduate, it is likely that I will earn how much? And he tells me. I said, okay, I'm going to drop out then. That's just my thought process. He goes, why? I said, because I already earned twice that. Because I had already figured out a way to earn twice what the professor made as a college student. So that's kind of where it was. And so if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, I'll give you 3 statistics that are not encouraging, but they're real. 96% of small businesses fail, according to Inc. magazine. 85% of employees lie on resumes, according to Inc. magazine. And 75% of employees steal from the workplace. And if you don't believe me, go start a business and hire people. You'll see it. So the next level of adversity was just managing people, being a 20-year-old boss, managing 40-year-olds, being a 20-year-old boss, managing 45-year-olds, managing a 20-year-old, That was it. And then, as an entrepreneur, I'm just kind of a point. I used to stutter as a kid, so I got picked on quite a bit, and I'm just kind of have pretty thick skin at this point. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And entrepreneurship is what I would rather talk about. I have no interest at all in the politics at all. And if we're living through the implementation of this Great Reset nonsense, I would have no interest in discussing it at all, because I have virtually zero respect for every Republican I've ever met ever, and respect for every Democrat I've ever met ever. The ones that are elected, because they have no principles. I have just found that they go, what do you want to hear? And I've even seen people who are white guys put on a black voice to talk to the black crowd, whatever that means. I've seen the black guy put on the white voice to talk to the white crowd. I'm serious. I've seen the white guy put on the hick accent to talk to the rednecks. So you'll see a guy, people that I know very well right now who are in office, they'll go, well, I'll tell you what, in Oklahoma, they ain't going to come after our land and guns because they don't talk like that normally. But when they go out to the country to run, they go, well, I'll tell you what, they do that stuff. Well, all shucks, I'll tell you what. And I'm going, it's just pandering. I think today most politicians are actors.
That makes a lot of sense. I was thinking one of the things that I don't like, correct me if I'm wrong, but did your son, did he struggle with blindness? There's a book called Now I See that all your listeners can buy today if they want to on Amazon. Now I See, written by my wife, Vanessa Clark, or you can download it for free at thrivetimeshow.com/free resources, thrivetimeshow.com/free resources. And I was not a believer in Christ. And I was driving down the road en route to Florida with my wife on a rare vacation because my son was blind and I was having meltdowns. And en route to Florida, I was having meltdowns. What does that mean? I was fine during the work day, but as soon as I got home, I would just lose it. So because my son was blind and my partner, my business partner is an optometrist. And so we'd seen all the experts, and I went to Sam's Club, and there's a book called God in My Corner written by George Foreman, which, by the way, is being made into a movie right now. And I knew that George Foreman was an awesome fighter, and I knew that George had a supernatural experience that changed his life, but I never knew what it was.
So I read the book, and George says the story that God appeared to him in a vision and told him, George, you need to quit boxing and serve me. And if you do that, I'm going to heal I believe it was his nephew who was in a coma. And George was like, what? Because George doesn't pray. George wasn't going to church. George wasn't reading the Bible. And he goes, I just feel like God is telling me this. But he didn't tell anybody. So he goes in a fight, and he basically passes out. And he's like, his trainer wakes him up, Roscoe, who, by the way, I've met Roscoe. I've had Thanksgiving with Roscoe. And Roscoe says, what happened? And he's like, I'm supposed to retire from boxing and serve God. And Roscoe's going, can I ask why? He's like, God told me. So he announces he's retiring. Wow. He gets a phone call before cell phones on the landline, and they call him in the training room. And they go, hey, your nephew just got out of this coma. And he was like, what? So he had this spiritual awakening. And I thought, you know what, if that can happen for George, that could happen for me, because maybe George Foreman seemed more relatable to me than the Bible. And so my wife had been praying faithfully. And I was a jerk. I was telling my wife to stop praying in the house, because she used to do prayer marches and prayer vigils and prayer. And I just kept saying, stop it. Stop praying. It's freaking me out. Well, anyway, our son started seeing shortly thereafter. And I went back to Dr. Groves and back to the Dean McGee Eye Institute. And they've said he's a medical anomaly. We don't understand it. And from a liability perspective, they started saying, things like, we definitely tested him and he was definitely blind. This doesn't make any sense. And that's when I had my awakening. But even as I tell that story now, it doesn't seem real. And I'm always humbled by it, because it doesn't make any sense. And so I just hope that my mission that I'm on right now with this ReAwaken America Tour event. And by the way, if you go to timetofreeamerica.com and you go up there, you're going to see that a lot of the speakers, whether it be Bobby Kennedy Jr. And others, they tend to be libertarian or if you're a complete Whole Foods liberal, you typically eat organic. Okay, you're into organic, and you're organic, and you're like, the food corruption's not good, bro. We got to eat healthy. And there's a lot of that liberal Whole Foods things. But then if you're a lot of conservatives are like, well, I'm going to eat steak every meal. I swear I'm going to eat steak. Okay, so there's so you almost have Republicans advocating for deep fried corn dogs, and you have Democrats are advocating for organic avocados. So we sort of have the organic avocado pursuing, relentless truth seeking audience who doesn't respect and somehow it's caught momentum, where now you'll have people that are on both sides that are up on stage. People are like, how did you get Bobby Kennedy? Or how did you get, General Flynn? How did that happen? And so it's a really, and the medical corruption that's going on is pretty next level too. So now we're getting doctors from both political parties that are joining the tour. And it really is. I mean, it's fascinating when two people start off totally divided because of whatever that is. And then when they seek the truth and they meet in the middle because they found the truth in the middle, that's what's happening on our tour.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I appreciate you sharing the story of your son. I'm an Army veteran, served several years in the infantry, had a really bad knee, wore a knee brace on it for years and years after I got out. Somebody prayed for it at a missions trip we went on. And I had very low expectations that anything would happen, because I've had multiple people pray for it, but sure enough, after they prayed for it, I could take my knee brace off and just walk normal, and couldn't explain it. And at the time I was a youth pastor, so all my kids were like, oh my gosh, Pastor Will, look at your knee. And to this day I've never had to put it on. So I mean, regardless of kind of whether you're a believer or not, I personally believe that miracles do happen and can happen. It sounds like that's what happened with your son. So thank you for sharing that story. But I do want to switch gears though and talk about a event that you just mentioned, the ReAwaken Tour. So what is the ReAwaken Tour?
Well, it changes all the time. It's like iterations. So one is it's very unprofitable. We'll start there. I lose a lot of money because you can name your price. So what? You can go to timetofreeamerica.com and you can pay whatever price is reasonable to you. So that makes no sense. The Rolling Stone came and shadowed me at one of the events. They rode in the white van with me. They're going, you drive a van with 140,000 miles on it? I go, oh, yeah. They go, well, I produce it. I emcee it. I direct it. I do all of it. And they're going, really? And then they started interviewing vendors. So a lot of I always invite the mainstream media, and they can come independent too. And they're asking vendors, what did you get paid to set up the sound system? What did you get paid to do the janitorial? What did you get paid to do the porta potties? And then they're asking attendees, what did you pay for a ticket? Because they're doing their investigative journalism. And one of the reporters comes up to me and he says, you must be losing like $100,000 every time you do this. And I go, yeah, it's a little more than that, but yeah. And he's like, what? Why are you doing this? So what I found was that the models that said 2.2 million people would die from this virus were false. They were, funded by Gates, et cetera. I found that the polymerase chain reaction test, the PCR tests that were invented by Kary Mullis, were falsely calibrated to inflate cases. I found the system and method for testing for this virus was patented in 2015. And you can find all this, but everything I'm saying is documented at time2freeamerica.com/revelation. And I found that the big plan that was out there was Klaus Schwab has this thing called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Who is, by the way, his father was very close to Hitler. This is him. And his top advisor is Yuval Noah Harari. This is Yuval Noah Harari. And so I thought, this is before the lockdowns. I said, I'm going to go meet the governor, the mayor, mayors, governors, lieutenant governors, attorney generals. I'm going to explain this all to them because if the models are false, the PCR tests are false, and the treatments are real, there's no reason to have a shutdown. But I don't have any faith in politicians because I've met these people. So I go in, and I won't tell you which governors they were, but some are like, well, I'll tell you what, in our state, brother, we're never going to shut down, me, because I put my state first, right? I put my pants on just like you, brother. Yeah, well, now what information do you got there? And I'm like, well, this is a PCR test. This is the inventor of the PCR test, Kary Mullis. Over here to my right, this is a doctor, a real doctor, and he will explain to you how this could be falsely calibrated to inflate cases. But before we have him explain it, let's have the founder of the tests, Kary Mullis. I have a 1-minute video. He'll explain it to you. And he's like, well, brother, I'll tell you what now, I don't really get into the science per se. I'm more of a, I trust the experts, but you just leave that there for my assistant. You want to meet with the attorney general? You want a commemorative hat? You want a hat, brother?
Is that Bill Clinton?
This is what
Bill
they
Clinton,
did.
Is that you?
This is just my Midwestern political voice. And then it kind of drifts. And then I meet with another, a person who's in charge, very high up. And they're going, I love your book, Fear Unmasked. It's so good. It touched me. They even took a photo of themselves with my book. Now, why did it get banned on Amazon? It's such a nice cover. I'm like, have you read it? Well, I'm not an expert, but you can trust me. We're not going to lock down. Well, then the lockdowns happened. So I had already predetermined in my mind that in the events that the lockdowns happened, I would sue the mayor of Tulsa to keep the city open. I would advise my client, who's the mayor of Broken Arrow, to keep the city open. I would turn my building into a church because I knew the churches would fold because I've met most of the pastors and they're woke, that if the church is locked down, my church would emerge. So I turned my building into a church, started flying out Pastor Leon Benjamin every Thursday. And if you go to rumble.com and you look for a remnant church, last Thursday, we streamed into 27,000 households, which is more people than all the mega churches in Tulsa combined. And we have a church congregation of less than 75 people. I'm not a 501c3. I never ask for donations. I fund it all myself. We fly in pastors to teach the word of God. I don't drive a Maserati as a result of your giving. I don't promise if you donate, you're going to make a tenfold return. And people are starting to wake up in droves. So the ReAwaken America Tour came from that because we started having 1,000 people a week come to my town halls. 1,000. And at one of them, General Flynn came to it. At one of the praise and worship rallies, Sean Foyt was there. And so that cast of characters that we met through those initial acts of defiance against the Great Reset are now speakers on the tour. So it's a very organic thing in that regard. And I just felt like God wanted me to use my time, treasure, and talents to help stand up for freedom because of the looming Great Reset that was coming. And so I've been doing that. And I thought we would do one. We did the first one. And we had, I don't want to exaggerate the numbers, but it was like 5,100 people in attendance. But there was way over 50,000 people that requested a ticket. And 7.1 million people watched the video. They streamed it online. So if you go to rumble.com and you look for Simone Gold, I think her video alone had 2 million views on my channel. It's crazy, it's all, and people were like, what? So General Flynn,
that is
do another one, and I said, well, the first one was kind of painful. It's kind of like passing like a kidney stone or something, because it's expensive. You don't make any money. You get hit pieces written about you. And I'm like, yes, sir, let's do another one. And so now we've built this really brotherhood and sisterhood, this fraternity of people that love our country and have sort of a disdain, disrespect, dislike for traditional politics as usual. So I would describe the ReAwaken America Tour as it's the Great Reawakening versus the Great Reset.
Got it. Is there any connection, I guess, with the ReAwaken Tour and like QAnon?
I don't do any of that. You'll never hear me cite it, quote it, research it, discuss it. But I would look at the people that do believe in QAnon as kind of like the people that do believe in CNN, or the people that do believe in Fox, or do believe in Andy Stanley, or do believe in Rick Warren, or it's like sources of information. I love that people have information, but I think we all need to say, regardless of where you're getting that information, we need to vet it, proof it, cite it, source it. And this belief that there's a single all-knowing white hat, the white hats have a secret plan. I don't see that. And I know all the people that would be, quote unquote, the white hats, and none of them have a plan.
Dude, that's funny. So let me ask you about the Great Reset a little bit. So it's this, we're going to have you explain it from your perspective, but it's this like something come up at the World Economic Forum about how to change kind of our economic ways of doing life post COVID-19. I know that's a very crude summary. Talk to us about your perspective of the Great Reset and its main goals and objectives, and why do you think we should be concerned?
Well, I have a 2-minute audio I'm going to play for you, okay? 2-minute audio I'm going to play for you, and it's not in my voice. The person you're going to hear is Yuval Noah Harari. So if you can just endure like 60 seconds of this, I promise I'll be right back. Okay, this is Yuval Noah Harari. This will blow your mind. Here we go.
In the abstract, the ability to hack human beings means the ability to understand humans better than they understand themselves. There is something new. The borderline is the skin. Previously, almost all the information gathered on you was outside your skin. Where you go, what you buy, what you watch, what you press on your TV, what you press on your keyboard. This is the information that flowed. But the future is about going under your skin and looking directly at what is happening in your heart, in your brain, what is your blood pressure, which parts of your brain are activated now. I mean, COVID makes it accelerates the process of digitalization and automatization. It legitimizes the deployment of mass surveillance, and it makes surveillance go under your skin.
This is Richard Werner, the top academic scholar in the world on central banking.
The nature of this CBDC, what is it actually going to look like? They never talk about that. Right. But I heard one European central banker tell me what it's going to look like. He saw it. And it was around this large, and would be implanted under your skin.
CBDC. If that happens, we're done.
Catherine Austin Fitz, I have a question for you, ma'am. These central bank digital currencies, how do they work?
So it's a digital currency and an all-digital system that can be controlled centrally.
We are about to face one of the greatest periods of uncertainty.
Okay, so you hear, I mean, that's in their own words, saying it outward. So it's surveillance under the skin. It's the introduction of these central bank digital currencies. If you want to read the patents or learn more about the technology, just type in MIT Quantum Dot or Quant Network. That's the name of the central bank digital currency system.
Got it. So ReAwaken Tour is basically a response to
the Great Reset.
The Great Reset.
Yes, and I don't want to do the tour, and I didn't want to do the tour, and I would love to stop doing the tour. So as soon as the Great Reset is stopped, if it is stopped, my plan is to go to the base of a mountain somewhere, or maybe the top of the mountain somewhere on the side of a mountain, hop into a cabin.
A mountain will be involved.
And continue with more of an Amish lifestyle. Because I though I have had success in business, and some people call me a tech entrepreneur, and some people call me an entrepreneur, whatever. I really do prefer spending time with my wife and my 5 kids, and a very small social circle. So the dynamic about you two that you guys have exists between my friends. I think a lot of my friends and I, we don't necessarily agree on every single subject, but we don't sit there and like attack each other online and go, "No, you're going to hell, you demon." You know, it's like we explain what we believe to be true. We have a discussion. You know, you could like the Packers, I could like the Patriots. We're not going to fight about it. And there's a lot of adults though that don't operate that way. And I just prefer not to be around people that spend their day attacking each other and arguing and this urgent emotional, you know, rules for radicals reading group of psychopaths. I would rather be off the grid and just doing my own thing. So I hope we can stop the Great Reset, because if not, central bank digital currencies don't seem like a good idea.
Yeah.
So it's like, so basically it's the fact that they're going to try to put a microchip, like they're developing a microchip that they can implant into our skin that then allows us to do like commerce, or if we don't. So what's the danger of it, I guess? So what, like I can have like a pacemaker in my heart, but I understand it's different. So what, help me understand the danger. Like, so what am I like, okay, cryptocurrency, centralized currency,
this is the Wall Street.
Help me understand the danger.
The Wall Street Journal reported on this. This is their reporting on this last week. So I'm just going to play a little 10-second clip here. This is.
For example, Fanucci says China's central bank could put an expiration date on the digital money, similar to how lottery winnings have to be spent before a certain date.
It means that the Chinese government could set up a whole lot of things to have your currency maybe valid or invalid based on its own priorities. This is almost like handing over the keys to your business or to your finance department in some ways, because you really can't control what at the end of the day may happen with the funds that you're holding.
That's how that works. Okay, so it's like a digital dictatorship. So the idea is they're putting biosensors under the skin, so you can't buy or sell unless you adhere to the narrative. So if you leave your 15-minute city, they call it, then you can't buy anything. If you post something on social media they don't agree with, you can't buy anything. If you don't eat enough meat or you eat too much meat, you can't buy anything. If you spend too much or you don't spend enough, So the idea is they take away your financial freedom, which is the ultimate form of slavery. It's like
so I guess. As part of your, push to promote the ReAwaken Tour, I'm assuming that you're using some of your keen business acumen to really promote it, which you're doing a phenomenal job. But also you're a believer in Jesus. And I don't know if whether or not you consider your profession a ministry or not, but like how do you think Jesus would view your work with the ReAwaken Tour and some of those?
One is, I would say, I would describe myself as a struggling evangelist. Struggling meaning that it's a struggle.
It's fair.
But we have about 500 to 600 people per event that participate in the baptism. And I greet people. So, Will, if you guys ever come to an event, I'd love you to be a guest of mine. I'd get you backstage and you meet everybody. But I get there at 5 a.m. each morning. The doors open at 6. I'm ready to go by 5, I'd say. So I'm there about 3 in the morning, usually walking the grounds, making sure everything works. And when the doors open, I greet as many people as I can. I say, "Hey, welcome." And they're like, "It's you. You're the guy." And General Flynn's with me. So he and I are greeting people at 5 and 6 in the morning. So we do that, and people are like, "I can't believe you're greeting us." We're like, "We can't believe you're here." And we connect and we fellowship. And then when the baptisms happen, I always tell people, my whole thing is for you to discover the truth about all this fraud and corruption. But ultimately, I hope that you can enter into a life-changing relationship with Christ. That's my whole plan to save the nation involves salvation. I just want to save individual souls. That's my purpose. So people come to the event, I think, because they see Michael Lindell or, Stella May or Pastor Leon Benjamin or Jim Breuer, and they're like, "I don't know what this is." I think there's a curiosity. Like 1/3 of our group is, I talk to people and I ask them, "Why did you come?" I think 1/3 are like, "Well, I saw the hit piece on you, so that sounded kind of crazy. I kind of needed some excitement." People like the same reason you go see WCW or Monster Trucks or MMA. You just want to see something crazy, But I think 1/3 are like, I believe in God and my pastor won't talk about anything at all, so I have no context biblically of what's going on. And then another group is like, they are maybe more politically active and some of these topics make sense to them. So they show up and it's never what they thought it was. I wouldn't describe it as a bait and switch. I would just describe it as like a very, very much more prayerful, worshipful, high energy, high octane, irreverent. It's almost like Dave Chappelle meets ministry. People, I mean, laugh so. It's so irreverent. I mean, Jim Breuer's comedy is so wild. He hopped up on the stage in Nashville. I'm paraphrasing, but Jim goes, "How many of you want to stop the Great Reset?" You know, people are like, "Woo!" And he's like, "Well, I'm trying to stop it in my house. My mother-in-law, she won't stop wearing a mask." And he starts talking about his mother-in-law. She's wearing a mask, and she can't get him to stop. And, you know, and he's making it real that, like, here we have these big issues. But in our own household, you got people, he's like, but apparently the virus isn't deadly when you're going out to dinner, you know, because if you sit down at the restaurant, then the virus can't get you. But if you stand up, it can get you in the lobby. So you wear the mask in the lobby because it's a very tall virus that's very inflexible. And he has a lot of fun with the flexibility and the aggressiveness of the virus and the spatial awareness of the virus and how it can get you in the lobby, but not when you're sitting down. And people of all faiths and backgrounds are like, that's so true. But somebody's wearing the mask going, dude, that's you. You know, so there's that. And then there's, just, I don't know, and I try to make the line. We have 71 speakers, you know. So like today, I won't mention the guy's name because I don't have it confirmed yet. We had a guy today reach out who apparently used to be in charge of America's legal system. Just this morning, I haven't talked to him yet. Okay, this guy used to be in charge of America's legal system. Now, Will and Josh, I don't know. I know the name. We could Google it and we go, oh, okay, that's who you are. And everyone would know the name, but I don't know the person. So I call my homies that know me and I go, do you know this guy? Is he like Newman from Seinfeld, or is this a good guy? Is this Newman? And they're like, oh, no, this is a good guy. But I don't know, because this isn't my world. Politics is not my world. So every speaker that speaks that's terrible is my fault. And every speaker that just rocks the mic, I'll take a little credit for, because I don't delegate the choosing of the speakers. I don't have a committee, and that's very alarming for people when they hear that, because people are like, that last speaker you had was terrible. Who would choose them? They'll come up and tell me at the event. Sir, I want you to know I love your event, but that speaker you chose was an idiot. Who chose that guy?
Yeah.
That would be me. And so it's a very interesting thing, and we're all discovering who the good guys are. And I don't know, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know, and you so you've mentioned COVID a few times, and I'm curious because, like, I think COVID was an exercise to kind of see how people behave when the plane is going down. And, you know, you've got the people that will either pray or you got the people that will curse. And I think that some of the interventions, like the mask and what have you, were very misunderstood. Maybe we got some really bad information on the front end, but, you know, me personally, like I believe COVID was real. I believe that the vaccination is safe. And I don't just do that because the people on TV tell me it's safe. You know, I do it because, like, my son recently just had a brain tumor removed. He's 9. And we've been sort of going through this whole long medical thing, and I remember, like, when the vaccines first became available to him, I asked multiple doctors that he was seeing, hey, is this safe for him to take? Is this safe for him to take? You know, all of them said yes. And I'm curious on, like, how do you reconcile what you feel, believe, know about COVID versus, you know, say, like, what I know, believe, and feel about COVID?
Well, the models that said that 2.2 million people would die are false. So they were off by 25 times. So Birx, who, you know, was the one kind of initially pushing the fear of the Scarf Queen. So she said this out loud. I'll just play this for you. She said this.
I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK about them adjusting completely their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000. So 500,000 to 20,000. We're looking into this in great detail to understand that adjustment.
I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines, and it made people then.
That's sort of, you know, I just know that the models that said that 2.2 million people would die are false. So, and then back to the treatability. Dr. Zelenko is a friend of mine. from New York. May he rest in peace. He was a friend of mine. Dr. Jim Meehan is a friend of mine. He's still alive. Dr. Sherwood, still alive. Dr. Richard Bartlett, still alive. And Dr. Richard Bartlett and Sherwood and Meehan and Zelenko, between the four of them, treated 37,000 patients total, with 3 deaths when they hit 37,000. Because we would touch base every day. So, I'm not saying that the virus itself didn't exist. I just know that 3 out of 37,000 people that they treated with budesonide, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine died. And then as far as why do people die, remdesivir is a drug patented by George Soros in China, and midazolam is a breath suppressant. So remdesivir is a drug patented by George Soros in China, and midazolam is a breath suppressant. And so if you take remdesivir and midazolam, that will cause death. And so most people that I know who work in hospitals blindly follow protocols. So I've met a lot of the doctors who've done their research, and now they've discovered, hey, what you were saying was right. But I don't listen to doctors. I don't have any respect for doctors, don't respect pastors, don't respect political leaders, don't respect mechanics, don't respect dentists. I have no respect for experts at all, because most experts that I know, regardless of their political affiliations, blindly follow protocols because they're taught that to memorize is the key to success.
So what do you feel like is the key to success?
You find the problem and solve it. So,
find a problem and solve it.
Yeah, so
totally.
If you're Dr. Sherwood, he doesn't watch the media. He doesn't listen to other doctors. He just goes, every patient that came in with COVID, I gave them the test that we're supposed to give them, which is a PCR test. They would test positive. I'd treat them with budesonide, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. No one died. And it happened 10,000 times for him. Plus, now it's more than that. It's probably 15,000 or even more now. But that's just, But he's never had a death.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. So, you had talked about, your disrespect for both, I don't know if disrespect is the right word, but for both the Republican and Democrat party, the whole political system. Has it always been like this, or do you feel like it's changed and become worse, and now it's elicited something of a response within you because
I can only comment to what
something shifted, right?
I can only comment to what I know. I can't comment on, the historical. I know in 1971 that Klaus Schwab started the World Economic Forum. I know that happened. I know in 1971 Klaus Schwab started the World Economic Forum per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. I know in 1971, per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger, a Republican, Richard Nixon, took us off the gold standard. What? Yeah, so the son of a guy, Klaus Schwab, whose dad was friends with Hitler, started the World Economic Forum, and Henry Kissinger told him to do it. Okay? Seriously, this guy would be considered the most progressive in the history of progressives. Okay, this is him. Okay? So be left. Then you have on the right, which is Richard Nixon, who's supposed to be the rightest of the right, the right. He took us off the gold standard per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. They both had the same advisor. Then at that same time period, we introduced what's called the petrodollar, which is a weird relationship with Saudi Arabia, where we say, hey, if you export oil at a price that we like to countries that we like and price it in U.S. dollars and deposit the profits in U.S. banks, we will protect you militarily. And that all happened per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. And then the decision to export our jobs began in 1972 per Richard Nixon and the recommendation of Henry Kissinger again. What? And Klaus Schwab is still good friends with Henry Kissinger. So the World Economic Forum was founded in 1971. And since that time, there have been people on both sides that say various things, but I just watch what they do. So I'm not really a fan of what people say. I don't care what they say. I watch what they do. So again, going back to COVID as an example, or mechanics, this is just a real example. I have hairstylists who work in one of my businesses. They cut hair. And some are terrible and some are great. What? You employ bad people? Hundreds of employees. So we have mystery shoppers that come in, and when my mystery shoppers, these are people I'm paying to be customers, they come in and go, hey, man, that lady who cut my hair today, she's a disaster. Or that guy, he's horrible. Or that person's good. Or that person's great. Or that person's... But I send in mystery shoppers. I don't listen to what they say. I don't care what the stylist says about their hair cutting skills. I care about feedback from people that get their hair cut. That's what I do. It's like overall paranoia, a lack of trust for any. It's not a political thing. So, I have people in my life. This isn't a political thing. This is just my life. I have friends and family that call me and go, I think I have COVID. I go, okay, great. Go to Meehan. He's a medical doctor. Or go to Sherwood. He's an naturopath. Both of them have now treated 20,000 patients between the two of them with 0 deaths. I don't care how you don't die, but just don't die. And none of them died. And now I had a doctor, I won't mention his name because I think you should not mention someone's name unless they've given you permission to do so. But there's a big-time doctor in Tulsa who came into my office, sat next to me 7 days ago, and he came in and he said, hey, I know that remdesivir now kills people, and so does midazolam. And I just wanted you to know that you guys have been right for a long time. So, okay. And I'm not mad at him, but he
thanks.
I said to him, can I ask you why you've just locked into this idea in March of 2023? And he goes, because everybody that I knew that was taking midazolam or remdesivir was dying, and nobody was dying on your protocols. And so I had a little COVID scare myself, so I treated myself with budesonide, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, these things, and I didn't die. And there was no way I was going to treat myself with midazolam and remdesivir. And I'm like, so you wouldn't have treated yourself with what you were treating your patients. And he's like, see, that's where, And so, again, I'm just saying most people follow, most people are like Richard Nixon, woo, yeah, Republican, yeah, I love it, woo. Because it's like if you're a Republican, you got Richard Nixon's the man, right? I mean, that's just what people do. And I don't look at it like that. I don't just blindly say Republicans are awesome. I cannot do it. I won't do it. So I reject the idea of just trusting experts in general, and whether it's hairstylists or doctors or,
So
because the fallibility they have. Oh, go ahead, Will.
No, I was going to say, so if I'm understanding you correctly, like you would support, me reaching sort of my conclusion about COVID treatment, what have you, because like I've done my research, talked to experts, I'm not going to go to medical school to try to learn it myself, so I just have to trust people that I believe care about me, and would treat COVID however I see best for me and my family. Like, and for you, like you have sort of a conclusion based off of your conversations, your knowledge, from people that you believe care about you as well. Like, is that a fair assessment, or recap of what you just said?
I think that as a libertarian, my worldview overall is that you can believe what you want to believe. I mean, if someone wants to dress up like an Ewok every day, that's okay. If that's what they want to do. I just don't want to like financially support people that that dressing up like an Ewok prevents them from earning an income. Therefore, they want me to, so I just kind of like I'm a libertarian. So again, if your conclusion is that the vaccine is effective and you want to take it, I'm not going to bar you from doing it. I'm also not going to bar someone from smoking, eating ice cream, eating only vegetables, working out every day, never working out, liking the Chiefs, not liking the Chiefs, the whole thing.
All of that, right? All of that comes together, the important things in life. Obviously, you're someone who loves the pursuit of truth. You have obviously spent a lot in of money and of your own resources to try to get a message out there that you think is really important and that is truthful, and that's very commendable. And I really appreciate that about you. When you get like, people come to you with statements or whatever that are contradictory to what you believe, or they're coming in, let's say they're coming in guns hot and they want to argue. Of course, everything has to do with someone's motivations, but how do you handle these counterclaims to what you do? And what I mean is, like, what's your method for kind of handling them? Is it like, does it just depend on the person that's bringing them to them? Is there a process you go through for testing their validity or anything like that? Or is it what do you think when people come to you with counter?
Well, I'm not claiming that I'm a genius. It's a thing of like, I don't listen to anybody for business advice. I won't do it. I just won't. And there's nobody who's talking right now, listen to your show or any show. I'm not going to listen to business advice unless you've already had success. And if you want to walk me through the path that you took en route to getting there, then I'd be happy to do it. But
it's looking to see the fruit.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to know what works. You know? And
you want to know if it works or not.
Yeah, and most people just don't look at it that way. It's all that. Just most people, it's like, is this person endorsed by this famous person? I don't. your ability to brand something doesn't impact whether it's accurate or not. The motivation, the urgency of like, you got to get serious. You got to get motivated, and woo! That whole motivational thing doesn't work on me either. The estimation of loss. If you don't buy it now, you're going to miss out. That doesn't work on me either. I don't participate in it. So I just don't. I just look at what works. And so, if you go to thrivetimeshare.com and you look at the clients I've worked with, they're all having massive success, not because I'm a genius. It's because I have a program. It's month to month, right? So I'm not roping you into a contract. I only make a small percentage of your growth. So why would I? My motives are aligned with my clients. So that's why they grow, because I want to help them grow. I don't say $5,000 a month locked into my 12-month program to get rich quick, be part of my magic money system. I don't do that. It's like I'll charge you a flat fee, get a small percentage of the growth, and that's why it works, because I have a mutually aligned interest with you.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, so how do you test for like for instance, like an expert, like forget about expert. How do you grow to trust someone and trust the information that you're receiving from them? Is it just based on their track record, or is there more of it?
I don't receive information from people, so I don't know how to respond to that.
Where do you receive information? What do you just what do you do?
I go seek it. Well, I mean, I know that the Ray Kurzweil wants to connect your neocortex to the internet. I know this because he talks about it. And so I just read patents that involve connecting your neocortex to the internet. And then I watch videos at the World Economic Forum where he talks about connecting your neocortex to the internet. And I just reject pretty much all sources of information about every subject ever.
Except,
that's what I do. So I don't listen to like pastors at all. Why would I want to?
Josh, take that.
I read the Bible. Now, if a pastor is talking about something, I like the idea that he's saying it, and I'll go look in the Bible to see if it's true. So just this Sunday, the church that I go to, Pastor Jackson Lawmeyer was teaching from the Bible, and I'm following along, and I'm like, what he said is accurate. But I don't just blindly trust what he's saying because he's a pastor.
Right.
And I just think that if people have the mindset that most things are not true, trust but verify, you know what I mean? Then the world will be a better place.
So that's kind of the method.
This
it's
idea
like trust but verify. That makes sense.
Trust as in like, I think you're a good guy. I hope you're not lying to me, but I'm going to go check it out. Because again, facts I'm giving your listeners here in closing. 85% of employees admit to lying on their resumes, according to Inc. magazine. 75% of employees admit to stealing from the workplace, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And 96% of businesses fail, according to Inc. magazine. Not good statistics. The statistics for being faithful in marriage aren't much higher either. So I'm just not going to blindly trust anybody with anything ever.
Yeah, just like two more questions, if you can just entertain us. I'd love to get your thoughts about what you think about Christian nationalism.
Well, I'm a Christian, and I'm not a globalist. So I'm a Christian non-globalist. And so I do believe that governments should be instituted amongst men to uphold our rights. So the way the Christian faith works, at least as I read the Bible, is God's the ultimate judge. God's given us principles we're supposed to live by, adhere to. We're supposed to that's what we're supposed to do. Having a relationship with Jesus Christ is like having a relationship with a compass. It's like the true North Star. It guides you. Every decision should be made through that perspective.
Right.
So that being said, Christ is, in the Bible, there's countless stories, but somebody wants to stone a woman for being a prostitute, and Christ is like, hey, let the person who has sin to be the first one to throw the stone. So, as an example, if there's somebody out there that wants to be a Muslim and wants to pray all day and do the Muslim prayer all day, that's great. If there's a Christian who wants to do the Christian prayer all day, that's okay. I'm not going to sit there and go, I'm going to ban Muslims, I'm going to ban Christians. I'm a libertarian. I believe in the free will. It's my mindset.
Yeah, and my second to last. Anyways, president for 2024. Any thoughts, pontifications, hopes, dreams, wants?
Well, I think that Trump represents the best option for people that want to reject the Republican establishment. I mean, he constantly runs in opposition to the Republican establishment. I think that would be the most. I wanted Ben Carson to win the first time when Trump was running. That was my guy, Ben Carson. And then Ben was beat by President Trump. And I've actually met with President Trump, and I have a lot of respect for him. And I can just say that I think President Trump is the best option right now if we want to see the economy rebound. We want to see the policies that he had in place put back in effect. But if we want to continue to see endless wars in the Middle East or Ukraine, it's the Uniparty. Because the Uniparty has to have an endless war. We can do a whole show about that. But they have to have a war with somebody. It's a great way to funnel money to it. And that's what they do. And again, endless wars is a strategy that both Republicans and Democrats have used forever.
Yeah, and one thing that I know that's kind of new, and I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but I saw that there's a Dominion lawsuit between you and Eric Coomer,
awesome.
I believe.
Yeah, it's kind of Eric Coomer, the former head of security and strategy for Dominion. By the way, this Eric Coomer, if you go to rumble.com and search his name, Eric Coomer, he ran a moving vehicle into a parked building during the middle of the day while so intoxicated that he hit the building. He lied to police. You have to watch the video. The police are wearing a body camera. And they're like, "Sir, did you hit that building?" And he says, "Not that I remember." I mean, what? I mean, that's pretty awesome. So that Eric Coomer, who also went on social media and let everybody know that he clearly doesn't like people that voted for Trump or like conservatives, he is suing me for defamation. So that's awesome. So I'm being sued for allowing speakers at the event to talk about election integrity issues.
Got it. I guess good.
Spend a lot of money.
Yeah. I want to be sensitive with your time, and I just want to thank you, Clay, for spending some time with us. We learned a lot. We know that the ReAwaken Tour is pretty important to a certain segment of our listener base. And
yes, definitely.
We just wish you all the success in the world. Seems like you won't have any problem with that with all your sweet business skills.
Well, business is what I do well, but it doesn't matter. I would not be able to enjoy the fruits of being a successful capitalist if we didn't have freedom of capitalism. So what I do is sort of a useless skill in a communist society. So I'm trying to prevent the implementation of the Marxist communist globalist strategy. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So I do appreciate you guys very much, Will and Josh. And again, if anybody wants to get those tickets to the ReAwaken America Tour, Trump Doral in May, or Las Vegas, Nevada in August, you can get those tickets at timetofreeamerica.com, and you can see the lineup of all 70 plus speakers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah. It's sad. I think we just missed the one that was in Virginia Beach. I don't know, a couple months ago or something.
I give an invitation. I'm saying it on air. We have audio record of it. I'm giving you guys a free backstage pass if you want to come, be a part of it. If you don't, that's fine too. But I would love for you guys to be able to be there so you can check it out.
We would love to.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we may take you up on that. And thanks so much for your time, and thank you to our listeners and viewers. And we will see you next week. Clay. Take care, guys.